Hello there, folks.
Hi.
It's another episode of Würfelcast, episode 25 already. I mean, it's been a while.
Okay. Well, it's been a week.
But I mean, it's it's been a while since the first episode and we're already here on
Oh.
25. I mean, the thing is that I was never sure if this would be a continuous series of something or we'll just, cut it off eventually and just deal with the usual reviews that I do on the channel and so on, and blog series. But it seems like it has evolved somewhat, and we have gone to certain extent of our quality. If you look at the first episode, the very first episode where we use Google Hangouts, it's just two of our faces just talk about with not so good quality of sound or anything like that. It's not the best quality of sound or picture right now, but it's way better than before. Plus, we can show you games while we talk about them, and have some kind of a cool video intro or something. So, I know
Well,
it's
hey.
it's evolved. It's evolved,
Good.
and that's great. Yeah, it's better than before. And so today's topic of the day is not a top 10. Why? Yeah, because we do top 10s a lot, and I feel like sometimes we want to do just a discussion that people can join in. Even watching this after it's been live, you can go and rewatch that episode and then, I don't know, write a comment about what do you think about this topic. But we'll get to that topic eventually. But we're gonna start with our usual. Let me just open up. I don't know where's my list. We're just gonna go with the usual episode segments, and we're gonna start with recent plays. And I've totally. Oh, I see here. Boom. Good. The graphics are still on. And I'm gonna, of course, share a screen for you so we can talk about. Oops. This is something else.
Oh.
It's for another list.
Okay.
Yeah. Spoilers. No, not really. But we're gonna start with recent plays. And Kyle, why don't you start and talk about something you've played recently?
Okay. Well, there were two games that I knew were coming out in October, and I was really excited for both of them. And so I'm going to talk about both of those today. The first one I'll talk about is an
Summoner Wars?
expansion.
Oh.
No, Summoner Wars. I played a lot of that, but the first one is it's a standalone expansion to a game I quite enjoy. Sometimes I feel like I'm one of the only people who quite enjoys it, but the game is the Buffy the Vampire Slayer expansion for Unmatched.
Oh, I meant.
And basically what this is it is more Unmatched, which, if you'll recall, is a two-player head-to-head game with card-driven combat system, slight variations in special abilities between the characters, and here you've really just got that again. It's four characters from Buffy, four of the, more popular kind of obvious choices. You've got Spike, Angel, Willow, and Buffy, and they have their special abilities, their own decks, their own artwork, and they're just fighting it out in one of two locations. Of course, once you've played through all four of those, you can open up your other Unmatched sets and easily mix this in if you want to have Buffy versus Dracula or anything else you want. That's very possible. The artwork is not as good as the other Unmatched art. It's been done by somebody else. It's fine. It looks good, and it's sort of in the style of the rest of them. But it is, at least to me, obvious that it's not the same artist. I hope that he'll come back for the next one. But still, I enjoy the game. It's one of those things where if you like Unmatched, this will fit right in. If you like Buffy the Vampire Slayer, this might be a good jumping on point. If you don't like either of those, this isn't going to change your mind.
Yeah. I'm not sure about the Buffy the Vampire Slayer. Maybe I saw that show a long time ago, but I don't remember that show at all. So maybe I haven't. Okay.
Well, I recently rewatched the entire series, getting ready for this to come out.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
So,
So, and
but
Unmatched is not the game for me, but I can totally see the appeal of that game and why people like this game. It just I'm not so of a confrontational player nowadays
yeah,
as I was before.
and I would say the Buffy, you could easily play this without knowing who Buffy is, just like you could
Yeah.
play the old original Unmatched set without deep understanding of Sinbad the Sailor.
Okay. Yeah. So what else have you played?
Well, the other one I've played, and it's one of those games that comes and takes over my life for a week, and that is Pandemic Legacy Season Zero. This is,
Yeah.
of course, the newest in the Pandemic Legacy series. The twist here is that instead of fighting a disease, you're fighting Soviet agents, and it's
No. How much of a spoiler is there? I mean, like the
well,
first
that's
picture
not
it
at
doesn't.
all.
Okay.
That
Yeah.
shows. I mean, that shows you that you're fighting these red blobs.
Yeah,
They're
but
little
just to be
plastic.
sure, if people don't want even to look at the box or anything like that because everything is spoiler for them, yeah, just skip a few minutes. But yeah,
But it's the same sort of pandemic system that you're used to. If you've played legacy versions, again, you have objectives that you're trying to fulfill, 2 or 3 per month, and each month is you'll play the game once per month unless you don't do very well, and then you'll have to repeat it. And the other sort of different thing about this iteration of the game is that instead of always knowing what your objectives are, there's a slight level of deduction that you have to do. So at the start of the game, the objective might be an unknown city in Asia, and so you'll take all the Asia cards, shuffle them up, and put one face down underneath that objective card, and then that's the city you have to figure out that is your target, and then you have to do an action to cause that objective to be solved. And also, instead of curing the disease because you're fighting Soviet agents and not a disease, you develop these vans. They're called teams, but they're basically vans full of big men with guns, and you send them around the city, around the world to take care of problems. The term the game uses is mop up. It's sort of a very, I mean, it's not a deeply thematic Cold War. It's not like Twilight Struggle here. It's more your almost James Bond or 1980s early Saturday morning cartoon version of the Cold War. Uh,
okay.
but it's quite interesting, and I really like this iteration of the pandemic system. I would really like it if there would be a separate non-legacy version where you just took the objectives and you took the sort of moving around and figuring stuff out and kept that as sort of a standalone replayable version. In fact, I have not destroyed my objectives this time. I've kept them, and I might eventually have that be what I end up with, and I'll keep this and have it be a replayable pandemic Cold War, at least until one comes out.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. That's totally fine. I mean, like I'm sure they're gonna come up with some kind of a Cold War pandemic eventually. Because you
Well,
come up
I
with
mean,
all kinds of themes. So yeah.
well, it seems like all the groundwork is done, right? I mean, really, all they have to do is reprint this without the legacy deck and have, just sort of objectives that you can kind of randomly pick from. It would be a very easy creation.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So, my recent plays, and I'm going to highlight also 2 games, because in the last 2 episodes, as you remember, I wasn't really playing at all, but then I got back into playing a few games. There's the new Brain Games shop just opened, and Brain Games has its own basically shop in Estonia. Brain Games is a Latvian or Lithuanian company, I don't know exactly, but yeah, they basically have representatives in Estonia, so they had a shop for a long time already. They were called something else, and then they got to like Brain Games, and they are the ones that are doing those board game camps as well in Estonia, the bigger ones. And so they finally opened another shop in the center of the city where they have some play area. Finally, because they never had any play area, and now you can go there. Today's the Halloween night for like play night, but whatever, they're gonna play some of the games there, and I'm gonna go there and just bring my copy of Title Blades and maybe do something about that. But I want to talk about Title Blades. Title Blades, the one that I just got recently and already played. I played it 2 times. I played, let's say, 1.5 times, because the first game we played 3 rounds and there was just a time limit. One of the people had to go, and then we're like, okay, let's finish on that. We basically didn't do just one more round and didn't do the scoring, but we played most of the game. Anyway, Title Blades, and I have the deluxe version, and I think the pictures of here are also about the deluxe version. Maybe not. Doesn't matter. I mean, you can look at the retail version as well. But the thing about Title Blades, it reminds me somewhat of Abyss, and Title Blades is taking place in this kind of a not watery, but kind of like that, water beach type scenery with creatures from the ocean creatures, whatever they are, turtles, etc., and fantastic creatures. And this is a worker placement game with a dice rolling push your luck, completing challenges, fighting monsters. And it reminds me of Abyss, because there as well you had a little bit of push your luck, and then eventually you are defeating stuff and then combining your resources in order to get it bigger and to get more stuff and get better abilities and so on. Here it feels the same, and the weight of these both games is the same. You also have the monster track there as well, where you fight monsters, etc. So it just feels like that. But this is a different game. In this game, you have
it has dice. I can see.
Yeah, it has dice, and it has dice that you can upgrade. So you use the dice to fight in the arena. You're gonna do the challenges. Basically, you're trying to roll these symbols on those challenges, and the symbols represent the different skills that you can upgrade in yourself. So if you complete the challenge with certain symbols, these symbols represent the skills, and then you can rotate the wheel and become even better and better, do more stuff, roll more dice, refresh more things, or maybe get more special abilities. Each player has their own deck of cards, which has really cool abilities. Like you start a little bit different as the other players, but almost the same. But eventually, as you get more of your abilities, you become more specialized in your own thing. And the worker placement is really simple. You go to those spots, collect those fruits or shells. And the cool part about that, the dice rolling here, it is a random thing. Yeah, you can roll a die, right or wrong, whatever. But there's also that danger die. The danger die is the one that eats your dice away if you roll badly. But you always have either through abilities, but mostly through the resource called shells, you have the ability to mitigate that. And in this case, you spend the shells in order to block the danger die. And you can roll as many times as you want. It's not like you can roll up to 3 times and then you have to, use those dice. You can roll as long as you want. But you have, if you get the danger coming, then you have to block that all the time. So you need to have a lot of shells. So you have to prepare if you want to roll a lot. But there are also other mitigations, like if you roll that symbol, this counts as that symbol instead, like special abilities things. So eventually you will have spent your dice, and then when you refresh your dice, and you can refresh to a certain number, but you can always upgrade yourself to refresh more, you will upgrade those dice, and those dice becoming better. Like the white dice are simple dice with just every symbol on each face, and a blank. But then eventually, if you want to specialize on certain symbols, you go to red side or a blue side, you spread out. You get those really cool elite dice that have like 2 symbols on one side of the die. And that's a lot. That's really important. And then you go fight monsters. And another cool part about the monsters is that when you go fight monsters, you will lose your dice in any scenario. So you fight the monster, you can beat him, and this is a collaboration between players. It's not like you can beat the monster yourself. Usually, it's different players going there and trying to defeat the monster eventually. And they are threats as well. They can penalize you if you will not defeat them. But in here, you will lose all the dice you go with to fight the monster, and the dice itself is a scarce resource. So you have to consider your moves when you go fight monster, when you do the challenges, where you go right now. It's strategic and tactical game. I just really enjoy it. I mean, my second play when I got to when I understood a few rules about the game, and this is the deluxe version with the dice trays and things eventually. So when there were a few questions I had about the rules. The rule book is fine. It's totally fine. I can understand how it plays, but because it has the rule book and the almanac, it's kind of like the Fantasy Flight Games does. You have the the rule book where you can start playing, but eventually there's the almanac with the advanced rules and explanations of the locations and certain cards and abilities, and it just going between two rule books. But it's not a hard game to learn, and once you get through that, after your first or second play, you're fine. You just look at the rule book for maybe a ability or two. So it's a huge box, the deluxe version, and there's a lot of game in it, and I really want to get the expansion as well. It's easy, it's, as I told you, it's like Abyss. It doesn't scream of biggest mechanics ever and biggest theme ever, but it just works so well, so smoothly. So, Tidal Blades, Heroes of the Reef, one of my first plays, and my second one. Oh, do you want to say about that? Have you played that?
I have not. I think mine is probably on its way. I just have not played it yet.
Oh, I see. Yeah, I'm sure you will enjoy it. It's just a lot of fun.
I enjoy many games.
Yeah, true. But this one, the second game I played, and I haven't played it in a long time, and I wanted to hunt down the copy, but eventually my friends got a copy and let's play it. And this is Scoville.
No.
And Scoville, yeah, Scoville is about, I do like Scoville, you know that. We had the Blender segment. Scoville is about basically growing those peppers and going between those peppers, collecting them, and have those different hybrids of peppers. Where's the chart? Whatever. Breeding those peppers into
Right.
new peppers, into new colors, basically. If you put the, the red and what are the blue? For example, the blue and the yellow together, you get a green pepper, etc. Whatever, all of these things. And eventually, this is a very simple game. You're trying to get different peppers so you can spend them for the recipes, which give you points at the end of the game. That's it. It's as straightforward as it is. Or you can go to the market and spend those peppers on the market card in order to gain some benefits like some money for bidding for future rounds, few points, and some other peppers. So basically exchanging one to another, like a resource. And you can do one of these, and just sell off peppers as well. And the breeding mechanism is cool. The set collection is okay, and I really enjoyed the game when I played it a long time ago. I really like the smoothness of that. But maybe going further into this board gaming world, a few years later, when I have played a ton of different games that give me a great vibe of various things going on, but don't overwhelm me, maybe I've just grown as a player as well. And this one seems a little bit too simple for me. What I would have liked for Scoville to be right now, a new edition of Scoville, or whatever the sequel to Scoville, which would be a mishmash of like Brewcrafters or Agricola plus Scoville, where you grow the peppers on your own yard. Let's say you have your own fields, you grow peppers there, you can buy them, you breed them, and the expansion does that kind of the laboratory expansion. But I want it to be like the whole this game in the center here going into your own player board, and the central board being a worker placement. You can go there and you can make a hot sauce. It's like you can come here and make a recipe. You can go there and do that. I want it to be a heavier game right now. It's just playing that, it feels a little bit too simple right now. It just doesn't give too much.
Okay.
It's too obvious.
Yeah, my problem with Scowell, so I like it. My problem is that it's just a little bit too long. It's a little bit too much. You just kind of do the same thing over and over again.
Yeah.
And I think it's maybe 1 or 2 rounds too long.
Probably. I didn't feel like it's too long, but I mean, like for what you do. Basically, your reward is that you get those peppers and then you just give them away for points. That it's as straight as possible, you know, and that what feels not so satisfying, maybe.
Yeah. And I agree. I wish that there had been more kind of control over how the mixing goes. It just kind of feels a little bit... It's never quite as satisfying to move around the board and just happen to get, you know, because it's really, the game ends up being about whether you can move far enough or whether someone's standing in your way to get to the place that you need to cause those peppers to breed. And again, I know the lab fixes that a little bit, but I don't know.
Yeah.
That's what I wish were different about it. I enjoy the game. No one else that I know does, so it means I don't play it very often.
Yeah.
But that's well, there you go.
Yeah. Anyway, this is the recent plays for me and Kyle, and we're gonna go to the next topic, which is what's on Kickstarter.
All right.
And we're gonna get to another. Let me see if I can. Wait, that's good. And I'm gonna now share the screen of a Kickstarter. Beautiful, Elvira, the Mistress of the Dark.
Elvira, yeah.
Elvira, I don't know.
Elvira, yeah. Well, Elvira's been around forever, right? Okay.
Yeah, I've seen her.
That's what you want to talk about?
No. But
the Elvira quarantine comic book?
Yes, that's the one. But Kyle, tell me, what's basically this is a topic about the games that are still on Kickstarter, still running,
Yep.
and we're excited about. So, what's your excitement of the week?
Well, my excitement, and this is fairly obvious, you probably could have guessed this based on what games I like, but the Kickstarter I'm more excited for than any for a long time is Freedom 5.
Oh, is it? Oh, yeah. Okay, I know that, yeah.
Yeah, well, so Freedom 5 is a re-implementation of Defenders of the Realm. If you'll remember, Defenders of the Realm was a large game that was basically the same thing as Pandemic, except that you had some randomness in that you would have to roll the dice to clear off that game's version of disease cubes, and you'd have to collect cards that you could then turn in for dice to fight the 4 generals who were marching on Monarch City. So this game takes that same system, and from what I can tell, it really is the same system. Just there's some story that's added, but instead of random heroes that is sort of out of a generic fantasy playbook, this one we have the characters from Sentinels of the Multiverse.
Yeah, that's
now,
what I
so far,
thought, yeah. Mm-hmm.
So far we don't have everybody, but the core major heroes are in there. And of the villains, we've got 3 of the usual suspects, which are Baron Blade, Citizen Dawn, and Omnitron. And then, oddly enough, Misinformation, who was more of a side villain. And then you've got lots of the smaller villains that came out in the Vengeance expansion that are the different generals that you can go through. So in the game, you're trying to defeat 1 mastermind and 4 generals, and who are called villains. And then there are more that are coming. I'm sure the one who's missing is Grand Warlord Voss, but I'm sure he won't be too far behind because it is Kickstarter. But it looks great. It's got the painted figures, which is always nice rather than gray blobs. It's got lots of stories. So unlike Defenders, you're playing. You can play a standalone game, but you're really playing through some stories, and you'll unlock some different rules that will affect the next story in that campaign.
Yeah.
And it really just looks like an updated version. Another issue that I had with Defenders, I actually played that recently because I was excited about this one, is that in Defenders, the locations are just kind of randomly all over the board. And so when you draw a card that references one, you've kind of got to go up and down and find it. And it's actually quite frustrating because it just takes a lot of extra time to find which location it is because there's no rhyme or reason to it. In this one, they're in numerical order. So, if it'll say location 22 and give its name, right? There is some thematic tie there too, but it's just going to be much easier and more streamlined. It looks like they've learned a lot from the prior games, and as you know, I love Sentinels of the Multiverse, and this is a good game because it will give you a Sentinels of the Multiverse experience without needing to plug into 3 other brains to keep track of all the various stats.
Okay, yeah. So this one still has 13 days to go. It's totally funded and overfunded. A lot of backers. And $49 is the Citizen Retail edition of the Freedom 5.
Which doesn't come with anything except the very basic game. That seems like the poor man's version of this game.
Yeah. And there's the $99 is the Hero Kickstarter exclusive edition, which probably comes with a lot of stretch goals and add-ons and expansions and extra heroes and things. So
exactly.
Here we have the initial estimate is the November 2021, so basically in a year, probably in 2 years. But it's Arcane Wonders. I mean, like, Arcane Wonder is not so bad on delivering stuff.
No, they've been pretty consistent. They Smartphone was about a year, and that was their first one.
Yeah.
And this something Roman one, the roll and writing looking one.
Roman Roll?
No, that wasn't them. I forget what its name. Foundations of an Empire or Foundations of Rome or something. I don't know. That one's still coming, but it's not overly delayed.
Okay, so you can maybe somewhat trust Arcane Wonders on the Kickstarter. We don't know.
Well, and in addition, this is a game system that is is well loved and established. I mean, if you were worried that the game wouldn't be any fun, you could easily go and find an old copy of Defenders of the Realm and play through it and sort of have the same experience with heroes you don't know. And I think there's online versions if you know how to do that and want to try them.
No, I didn't like it, Defenders of the Realm and the whole system of that. So
well, then you probably won't like this one.
Yeah.
I mean, it's the same game with a different skin on it, but it's a skin that I really like.
I'm also not a fan of superheroes games. I'm more a fantasy or post-apocalyptic and Cthulhu thing.
Well, there's a Defenders of the Realm for that one too.
No, thank you. Bye. So my choice for the Kickstarter project is Endless Winter. You've seen that. You probably backed that as well.
No, I did not.
So this is from Fantasia Games, and it's a new company. I don't know who they really are, but I mean, like, the game itself looks interesting, and the art is by Mikhailo Dmitrievsky, who is Miko basically. It was done the what's they called, the Viscounts of West Kingdom and Raiders of the North Sea and whatever, the West Kingdom and
all
North Sea.
of the Valeria games.
Valeria games, and nowadays he's almost like the Vincent Dutray. He's everywhere, you know. He's doing all of the different stuff. But this one, I mean, his art really fits into this game. It seems, for me at least. It doesn't. I'm a little bit bothered by his art in various other games, but in this one, it kind of fits or feels good. Anyway, I don't know much about that one. It's a new thing for me. I just discovered that. But it really looks cool. You're building up yourself on a board. You have your own board, and it has the worker placement and deck building aspects. And in this one, you I don't know how strong the deck building is, but for example, if I looked at the what's they called, the Ruins of Arnak from Czech Games Edition, I really like the deck building aspect there. Like
Okay.
your deck building is basically you wanna compete on more things and go there and do more stuff, you know. And in here, you're also trying to get more powerful cards and to get more resources, to get more stuff, to get greater abilities, and eventually you go to those worker spots. And as I didn't understand completely, but basically it says they allow you to perform sequence of actions instead of just one. So if you go to a worker spot, you can somehow perform a sequence of different things, not just, you know, I go there, I get a fruit, I go here, I get a worker, whatever, you know. So, and there are different phases, and the one of the phases is the eclipse phase, which reminded me of Arctic Scavengers, where you always leave few cards for like another phase of the game, where you can compare them and whatever. You remember Arctic Scavengers? Like you
Yeah,
play.
that's that one I haven't played.
Yeah, basically you play a usual deck building game, and then eventually you can leave few cards for the skirmish action, where during the skirmish you will reveal and then you will fight each other basically. Yeah, so you can get more stuff. You can get like a special card from the special scrap pile, whatever. In this one, yeah, you also leave few cards on so you can become the first player eventually. I don't know, it just sounds rather simple. Maybe a little bit point salady, but the deck building aspect with maybe a little bit of that surviving and worker placement aspect just sounds cool to me. I don't know any more about this game. That's Endless Winter. Paleo Americans. Okay, maybe it's like the first one, and then they're gonna Endless Winter, whatever else, Norse.
Well,
And the Pathfinder is the pledge, which is 50 euros for the deluxe edition, which is less than the Freedom 5. And it gives you some expansions and things, and the December 2021 is the estimate, which is a year away, at least
a
a
year
away.
plus.
A year plus away, which basically means probably a new company as well, which means 2 years away. So, and you have non-English versions as well, and the Shaman, which
I don't
gives
want
you
those.
cave painting expansion. Basically, you have even more expansions and things if you go with
Of course.
76. And you can probably go Chief. Yes, you get even more things in large playmat and soundtrack. Okay, so yeah, this is Endless Winter. Sounds cool, looks cool. I do really like the wintry themes in games lately.
Yeah,
I don't know
you
why.
do.
Maybe I live in the colder country. Maybe like
Maybe you live in the colder country.
winter is such a beautiful time of the year, and it has 16 days to go. A lot of money collected, so just go with that.
Okay.
And
There you go.
this has been What's on Kickstarter. And now we're gonna go to the next segment, which is called Guess That Game, with exclamation. Guess that game.
Guess that game.
Good. Oh my god. Clank in space. Okay, whatever.
Now I know what game it is.
Yeah. Oh, sorry. Wait, I had to do it in the other order. Okay. Oh, sorry. No. Right. So we're gonna give hints to each other, trying to guess what game are we talking about. Do you want to start, or let me start?
I will start. That's fine.
All right.
The first game I have this time is a one versus many game.
It's Descent, the journey into dark, whatever.
No, it's not. It is not Descent. The second clue I have is that this game has I guess I would call it a horror theme.
Catacombs.
No, it is not Catacombs.
Okay.
This game is the only game I know of that has prostitute meeples.
What?
or prostitute pawns.
Whoa, that's bad. Is it like the one of those Cool Me or Not games, command games? The Cthulhu made? No, it's not the. I don't know what's it called. Hate or whatever.
No. Well, you know I don't like that game. This
You hate that
game, when one of these prostitute pawns is killed, you take a little clear blood, or well, a blood chip. It's basically a red transparent chip, and put it over her spot so that you can see where it happened.
Oh, this is the Whitechapel. I know that game. I don't remember the name exactly. The Whitechapel something.
The Whitechapel something. There's a game called Letters from Whitechapel.
Yeah, that's the one.
That's the one.
Yeah. Yeah. So yeah. I've never played that one, but now as you told me about the blood and things, so I was like, oh, now I get it.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know for sure. Anyway, let's go with my pick here. This is the game about pirates.
Is it Rum and Bones?
No.
Oh.
In this game, you control at least one ship. At least one ship.
Is it Merchants and Marauders?
No. Because in Merchants and Marauders, you control only one ship. Here you
That's
control at least one. Yeah, at least one.
That's at least one.
True that as well, yeah. I just want to get it away right now. Okay, in this game, you plunder merchant ships to gain more points, basically. As straightforward as possible.
Black Fleet?
No. You'll guess it. This game has a deck building aspect.
A deck building pirate game. It's not coming to me.
Yeah, it's a particular deck building game, but it has deck building as one of the viable things. And this game has an exclamation point in the title.
Is it that Pirates game in the red box?
Yeah, that Extraordinary Adventures Pirates.
Yes, that's the one. Okay.
Yeah.
It's a terrible name for a game.
Yeah, it is. But it's a good game. We played it together.
It's just a terrible name for the game.
Extremely simple though. This game
yeah.
would definitely need some expansions to spice it up. All right, what's your next pick?
My next is a cooperative game.
Laundry?
I think you're doing that wrong. In this cooperative game, you are fighting monsters.
I know this is D&D.
No. In this cooperative game, as you fight monsters, you might go crazy.
You do?
You might.
You might go
Probably
crazy.
will.
It's not a Cthulhu themed game, no? If you go crazy, I don't know. Nothing comes to mind.
In this cooperative game where you fight monsters and go crazy, the crazier you get, the stronger you get.
The only thing about going crazy during the game is the Mountains of Madness. That's the one I know.
Oh, well. Yeah, you definitely do there. That would have been a good choice. I
don't know.
No, it's not that one. In this game, you tend to be fighting against Cthulhu-themed monsters.
Yeah, that's what I told. Is it Eldritch Horror?
No.
And an Eldritch Horror, but is it? Oh,
This
the
game-
Cthulhu May Die,
Cthulhu may die.
or whatever. Death May Die.
Well, the next hint was going to be this game has a feature of a ridiculously large figure. So, yes,
Yeah.
that is the one.
Yeah.
Cthulhu May Die.
I don't know. I haven't played that one. Yeah. All right. All right. Okay. My next one is a dry Euro game. It's dry.
Is it the Golden Ages?
No, because Golden Ages is dry and horrible looking. That's what I would say. Would have said. Okay. This one has a music theme.
Is it Symphony Number 9?
Oh, you guessed it. Yeah. You know.
That second clue cut out a whole lot of games.
I didn't know how to hint towards that because one of my hints was you collect different composers because you do basically their works, but you and that I had the review of this game and that many composers have died after that. I don't know why. I mean, Symphony Number 9 was, this is the many composers, many classical composers have had Symphony Number 9 as their final symphony, and only some got over that number. It was like a cursed number, if you know about that. So, Symphony Number 9, a cool game. By the way, I really like the aspect of scoring, where collecting more works from a certain spot makes you score more, but then it correlates with other spots and other colors and works. So it's a cool game that would need a kind of a small revamp, little extra development, and better graphics, because I can see that the theme would not be the strong suit for that game, but at least some better graphics would be cool. All right, so this is Guess That Game, and now we're gonna go to a topic called Under and Over, and we're gonna talk about the games that are underrated and overrated. And so, Kyle, I'm gonna share a screen, and you just start talking about your picks for underrated, and then overrated.
So this is a game that I beat the drum about a little bit. I think it is a game that only I like, so I think it's very underrated.
I know, Summer Wars is so underrated.
This game is, it's been on my time. Well, so the game is In the Shadow of the Emperor.
Okay.
And it's not the best looking game, I'll give it that. And the theme isn't all that exciting, right? It's the Holy Roman Empire, but the game itself is really quite interesting. And so what you're doing is you're trying to place your people on the thrones at the right time so you can elect yourself to be the Holy Roman Emperor at various times. You've got to get married. Some people can't get married because they're priests. You've got to have children. And depending, you really want the boys because they'll be able to give you things that you want, but you might end up with a girl, and all you can do with her is marry her off to someone else or send her off to be a nun.
That's terrible.
Well, hey, terrible or not, that's how the game is, and that's kind of how it was back in the day. And there's all these different the different German states that you're trying to be the head of, and they give you access to different abilities. It's really, the theme is quite good. The artwork, not so much. The gameplay itself is not very hard. It works better with more people, which is why I don't play it as much as I could. But it's just one that no one really even knows about. As far as, it's just, you don't ever hear anyone talk about it, but it's one I've always really liked. So I find it to be underrated and underappreciated.
Okay. Yeah. This looks like a garbage. Oh my god. Yeah. I remember you talking about that one.
Yeah,
and I can totally see, I can literally see why it's so underrated.
Well, and sort of the interesting thing about this one is that every round your people are going to age, and so they rotate. They have odd numbers on the side. It's like 15, 27, or and when they get to a certain point, they're eventually going to
die,
age out of their position.
Yeah. All right. All right. So, what's your overrated game then?
My overrated game is a game that it's a fairly easy overrated game. Lots of people really like it. I do not see the appeal at all. The game is Twilight Imperium. Any of them. This is a game that is just, it's very long. That's the first problem. It's very restrictive. Unlike the movement system, it's just very ponderous to get anywhere. But the worst sort of component or aspect of the game is that it has a built-in filibuster. And basically you're going to go through all this discussion and, okay, let's finally vote on this. Which special ability do we want? And it can just drag on and on and on. I have played full games of Summoner Wars on my iPod, or my iPad back in the day.
iPod.
Yeah, well, I didn't play on that, but on the iPad back in the day. I played full games of Summoner Wars waiting for my turn in this. It's just, the game is so ponderous and slow, and it's never really very satisfying for me. I don't find it worth that investment, and I know lots of people at least claim to like it. I'm not sure how many of them have actually made it through a game, but hey, who knows?
I mean, this one seems to be a kind of a lifestyle of a game. If you're the Twilight Imperium player, then you are the Twilight Imperium player. And of course you play many other games, but usually those people, like for example in Estonia, I know few people who play Twilight Imperium, and for them, this is one of those few games that they play. This is the one, this is the lifestyle. And it seems like this game needs to be a lifestyle. It's like magic. You have to play it constantly in order to enjoy it, in order to remember all the rules and intricacies and be good at negotiation and stuff. So this is the one that needs investment of your whole hobby. I've never played it. I never will, because I don't want to lose my time into that probably epic game that I will never play again. I'm just sure about that. It's sometimes there are those games when you look at them, you can totally see that. Nope, never. I'm never gonna play it. Oh, sorry, my microphone was in a bad spot. You probably heard me half an episode. You heard me really. Oh my god.
I heard you just fine.
Yeah, but sorry about that. Yeah, my microphone fell off and I didn't see that. Okay. Yeah, nothing to say about this game.
My under and over.
Yeah. So for my list closed. For my underrated game is the one that probably many people haven't heard about. We even did a review of that long time ago, 5 years ago, with not so good quality. If I would have this game again and play it again, I would do another review of that, of a better quality. But this one is called Loop Inc. And Loop Inc. is, as you can see, it is underrated and not so good ratings, and it says the best none. It says playtime 20 to 40 minutes. I wouldn't say that, but this is the game that introduced the cool part about a time travel aspects in board games overly. I mean, this is one of those games that kind of does the time travel in a good way, in a way that makes sense. It's Quantum Moria art, and this adventure set collection game. You have those different pieces, and you need to create your you need to build up your ship with those different pieces from the garage, and you're playing out cards. The best part about this game, you're playing out those cards, and at first you play 3 cards in the first round, and the second round you play 6 cards. And the first 3 cards that you played in the previous round must be played in that same order and those same cards, It's like you are repeating the day plus giving it some new vibes, And then eventually, if you go to the third round, you play 9 cards where you play 6 cards in a row, which were basically played before in that same order, plus the 3 new cards in your own order, So it's like it's like a Groundhog Day. You're repeating and repeating each day, but with some new nuances. And that sounds just cool. That sounds very thematic in this case, in my opinion. And at some point there is the problem is that you cannot play a card, and do nothing. You know, it's like if you play a card, you must do that. For example, you take one or more components from your time machines. If you don't have any components in your time machine and you play this card, then you get a whatever the time space continuum error thing, whatever, you know, it's just minus points.
Right.
Yeah. So you have to program your kind of a movement or your actions in advance starting from the first round. And you have to be sure that next round when you play that card again, you have this stuff on you because you have to repeat that day. Otherwise you're breaking the law of time. You know, it's just a fascinating idea. Maybe the reworking of this game with some extras or maybe like few tweaks would save that game from being so underrated. I like this game. Like, as you can see, this is an 8 out of 10 for me, which is a really good game in my classification. So I don't know.
I might have to give it another try. I was not as enamored with it as you were. I remembered it being kind of slow and ponderous, but
I haven't played it for a long time, so this is more of my nostalgia, maybe my. Yeah, I mean, like, no, I just looked at this game. It's like, I really like this game, and I can see those things not working for some people, but this idea of having kind of a Groundhog Day is really cool in this one, and most of the time travel games, as you can see on the market, they don't do that. They say that it's time travel and about time, but it's really not. This one really does that well.
okay. There you go.
Like programming for the future, yeah. So this is my underrated game, and my overrated game is a game loved by many people, and I don't understand why, except maybe the artwork. But generic fantasy theme, no.
I'm in.
No, there's not, like, there are no exciting game mechanics in this game because it's so puzzly and so abstract. It's just a puzzle that you put together, nothing else, and it just takes away from the experience of adventure and fantasy and the world itself. That's Legends of Ender. And I just don't understand what's so great. And I gave Legends of Ender quite a few possibilities to make me like it, you know. But it's so puzzly, so abstract. It's about, like, you need to do these exact steps, so the monsters will go this exact way, so you will not kill too many monsters. I don't understand the appeal that it's not all about killing monsters all the time. Now you need to think about your adventure. This is an adventure. If you put that theme, you have to implement the adventure into the game. Mm-hmm. That's what adventure game is. That's what fantasy is. Fantasy is something overwhelming, special powers, great firebolts, left and right. You fight monsters. That's what it is. And if you want to do something different, then pick another theme or implement it in a different way. For example, like Dawn of Peacemakers. This game is about preventing a war. But still, you have to do some casualties, and it's still adventurous. So in this one as well, it's a puzzle. It's a abundant puzzle. We played it like 4 or 5 times. We tried to understand what's so great about this game. We tried to beat it, but it's so unexciting.
I need to try this one again. I remember I liked it, but what I hated was the rules. Because it had only the learn to play. Like, you had to play it through. You couldn't just pick up a book and read the rules. And I found that extremely off-putting. Yeah. So it's very hard to come back to unless you want to play a fairly boring first scenario again. I that was my big problem with it. Also, the box said it had like 6 adventures, but the 6th one was create your own, and the first one was learn the rules. So yeah. So I think that's been fixed obviously by expansions. I remember thinking the game had potential, but I hated the rules so much that it kind of hurt my enjoyment of the game as a whole.
Yeah, but also having a mage versus having a swordman or the axeman or whatever, the archer, it never felt like I'm that hero.
No,
It
the
just
mage could flip his die over. That's magic.
oh my god, so great. I mean, like nothing of a theme here. It just the art is so great. It looks so great. The idea is cool. Puzzle out your way, but it's just it's so linear as possible. You have to have the exact. I mean, like there's only one way to win each scenario, in my opinion, or maybe two ways. I don't know, but it felt like that. We tried various different, strategies on how to move there and like calculate and do the math, how we should do that or that turn. But when I start doing math during a game, it's not a game anymore. It goes straight to the garbage, and I lit the garbage, and I don't know.
I don't think it's as bad as all that, but I do
want to
remember
put it
having
number
some
one.
reservations.
Yeah, I want to put this game a 1 right now. I will not, because I don't want to change my rating from a long time ago when I played it. I mean, like, let it be right now. It's more of my anger here, because I just don't understand the game.
Anger, nostalgia.
Yeah, nostalgia critics. Okay, so this is my overrated game, and it is an overrated game. Just get out of this of my face. All right.
Okay.
I'm an angry person. All right, let's go to the next segment, which is funky components. And in this game, we talk about some weird, funky, maybe big, maybe small, but different from usual components. And not just the miniatures, but really different.
I don't know how different from usual mine will be today, but I don't know. It's a
A
standout
meeple?
component.
Okay, what's the meeple?
Well, it's not actually a meeple. So the game I am highlighting today with kind of an odd component is it's not that odd, but it's odd in terms of that it doesn't do anything in the game. That is the cathedral in Pillars of the Earth. So in Pillars of the Earth, it's an enjoyable game about getting your resources, and there's there's some interesting bidding, and there's some worker placement aspects, and there's a lot of good mechanisms that are going on. But then at the end of the round, you're putting this wooden block cathedral together, and that has no function in the game at all, other than keeping track of how many rounds you've played. And and I always build it. I have the house rule of whoever is in the whatever spot it is that. I think it's the first player spot or whatever. Whoever goes there gets to choose which piece to place and how. So we have an unusually built cathedral rather than sort of the standard rote. This is how it's going to look. I don't know. That's my silly house rule. I really enjoy the game, but this one component just doesn't really fit. It doesn't really have any function, yet it is the most noticeable component of the game. So.
Yeah. That's the game I want to try because of the other stuff, but it looks like the component for the sake of just having the beautiful piece on the board and representing the Notre Dame. And
well, it's not Notre Dame; it's Kingsbridge Cathedral.
And, Kingsbridge. Sorry, I thought it's
which is a cathedral that doesn't really exist, but it's in England.
Okay. Oh. Maybe I heard about something. Okay, all right. Then this is a different one. But I mean, we're gonna talk about this topic in a few minutes. But maybe it adds to the theme.
Maybe
we'll see. We're gonna talk.
But it is an unusual component, so that's why it's on the list.
All right. So I'm gonna go back to a game that I already talked about today. During my recent plays, and I'm gonna go back to Tidal Blades. And in this one, let me see if there's if I can find the picture. The deluxe version of this game has a dice tray in it. Ooh. Yes, which is basically a built from like the game trays The insert, the deluxe version has this one. And the game trays insert also has a special dice tray that goes with it. I'm going to see if I can find a picture for you. Oh, here. Maybe you can see at least, you can see only part of that, but you can see here more. So this is the dice tray, and this one looks like an arena, and it's made out of different components. I looked at it, it's made of various components, extra layers of plastic and things, and rather hard plastic. So it's a cool looking dice tray that also, as we're going to talk about further, adds to the theme, adds to the feel of the game. I don't know, I haven't seen that many dice trays coming in the box already.
Okay.
Of a game. You always have your own dice trays, and usually you have dice towers, but not dice trays. I don't know if. Yeah, I don't know if you have seen any other game having a dice tower, dice tray.
Well, I guess technically Tiny Epic Galaxies does.
No, yeah, the box doesn't count. Like a specialized dice tray. So yeah,
well, it does say roll your dice here.
Yeah. But yeah, this one just looks cool. It's specialized for this game, and it's really cool to roll dice in there.
Okay.
Like when you do challenges, you do the arena. So, cool looking dice tray.
Great.
All right. So, we are now going to our last topic, which is called the art of theme. And this is a discussion topic, not the top 10. And the art of theme, what we mean about that is that we want to talk about how much does the art and also the theme of the game elevate our excitement about the game or our enjoyment about the game. And that's the art of theme. And I just feel, I don't know, it's a like free roam discussion here. It's just throw in your ideas. What do you think about that? I mean, like the components. I want to throw in the components as well as components being. Sometimes components are just components like dice, etc. Usual ones. Mm-hmm. But if you have special dice which have special symbols on them and that add to the theme, or miniatures, they are more of an art, in my opinion, and add to the art of the game. But
so the first game I think of when you mention this is a game that I don't enjoy. It is a game that I don't find to be exciting at all, and the only reason I tolerate it is because of its artwork. And that game is any of the games in the Call to Adventure line.
Oh.
So there's two standalone games, and every time I have played the game, it has flopped colossally. There's almost no game there, but the artwork is so enjoyable, and the tactile, physical, those runes that you throw up and cast is very entertaining. Mm-hmm. But there's really just no game there, right? You're kind of playing almost take daddy cards on each other, and you're going after these cards in a row that are going to add some aspect to your story. And as a tool for maybe designing a character or a story building exercise, it's quite interesting. And the two thematic versions, the Way of Kings, Stormlight Archive, sorry, and the I forget the other one is the fourth one.
Yeah, it doesn't matter.
King Killer Chronicles.
Yeah. I mean,
both of those add nice, story moments. So you've got somebody's interpretation of various moments in those stories that are quite beloved. And this game is all art and no game. So the only reason I will ever get it out to play it is to sort of experience the artwork and how that makes me enjoy it. But the game itself is nothing. But
do you feel that only the art saves the game, or the theme as well?
No. Well, I mean, the thematic expansions, yes. They add a little, like a plus 0.1. But the base game is not thematic at all. It's just sort of generic fantasy. Uh,
Okay.
and so for that one, it's just the artwork. I mean, pull the game out of the box, look at the artwork, and then put it away.
Okay. Yeah. I can agree on that. That I haven't played this game, but I've seen 2 reviews. It seems to be like an experience of a sort,
Yeah.
not just not the game, but more of an experience. And the art sometimes when you want the art to elevate the game, the art must really pop in certain aspects of the game, in components, still being connected to the theme. Sometimes you have great art. I don't know what would be the great example, but sometimes you have great art, but it doesn't really matter. You could have any pictures on there. There are just quite a few small card games, for example. Or for example, where the art or maybe the graphical layout of the game adds to the kind of a second layer of nostalgia. For example, for example, Harry Potter, the Hogwarts battle. This game has a theme of Harry Potter. If you look at these cards and things, there are like screenshots and etc. It doesn't, as an art, it doesn't really add to the theme for me, and the game is very abstract and very mechanical.
Yes, it is.
But in this case, because of the existing books and movies and a theme that's known by many people, when you look at this picture, you see that the Dursleys and etc. This spell and things and this basilisk fang, you start remembering stuff, and it still adds to that. So, like for example, the Harry Potter theme in Harry Potter Hogwarts battle works because of your knowledge about Harry Potter, not because it's a great theme in this game particularly. So there are those games that work because they are, like Cthulhu, for example. It just works because everybody knows that, and they can create. you can create
almost by fiat.
Yeah, you kind of create stories in your own head. Yeah, So, but sometimes the screen captures. I hate them usually,
I do
but
too.
in this one, because I've grown up on the books and films of Harry Potter and I enjoyed them a lot, I feel like this one doesn't bother me, but might bother those who didn't watch.
Right.
Harry
Well,
Potter.
since you mentioned the Cthulhu, another interesting way that art can be evocative of the theme. I mean, nobody's going to. So Fantasy Flight Games does something with its Cthulhu games, which is almost annoying, but they use the same artwork in all of their games. Right? You pick up a version of Eldritch Horror, it has the exact same artwork from Arkham Horror, and that exact same artwork finds its way into Mansions of Madness, and it finds its way into, to some extent, to a lesser extent, into the card game. But what that means is, it sort of allows you to have already a pre-packaged response to this particular character. You don't need to figure out which one is Harvey Winters, because he looks the same in every single iteration that you find.
Yeah, the
I don't know
consistency.
that I like it, but it allows you to have your response ready when something shows up.
I mean, the art and components that the Fantasy Flight does are a good quality, and in this case, I feel like if you have a good quality art and you're kind of expanding the universe through different games, but keeping art the same or artist the same, it adds to that. I mean, like if you go from Arkham Horror, you evolve into like Eldritch Horror, and then you go to whatever else that there were, like Mansions of Madness, you said, and so on. Or you go to Mansions of Madness, and so on. You kind of feel connection between those games, and you feel instantly connected to this next game. it feels like. For example, when I play, because I played Arkham Horror before, I was I was more connected to the Eldritch Horror once I started playing that.
Right.
Because I didn't like the game itself, but I mean, I already started maybe not enjoying it more. But yeah, I don't know how to explain that. Mm-hmm. But basically, the art that comes from another game goes to the next game can really help you understand the game and can really help you get to the game faster, get to the core of the game faster. And we're talking about the Eldritch Horror here, for example, and I want to have your opinion on such thing. And I think these are dying out nowadays because of the Kickstarter and lots of miniatures. These are the standees. What do you think about standees? Because, for example, I just got recently this Tidal Blades, and you have seen the picture of Tidal Blades, and the retail version has those standees of the characters, and depending on where you sit on the table, you know, it's a 2D picture. You know, it doesn't feel alive. It doesn't feel, I don't know. It just they feel like some thrown in pieces into the box. You know, some games do really need either meeples. I do like meeples, which are like custom meeples, which have kind of a shape to them and color, or have miniatures.
Yeah. So I agree. There's that game Barbarians, and the game is not amazing for artwork, but you could get two versions. You could get the minis version, or you could get the sort of painted, screen printed meeple version. And I got that one just because the problem with many of the minis games is that if they're not painted, it looks like just a bunch of kind of generic gray blobs, and you don't really get the enjoyment of having this nice sculpt if you're not willing to put in time or money to cause it to be painted. So for me, the screen printed meeple is my way to go. Standees feel cheap. If ever that's what the game's using, it just feels like you didn't want to go all the way. I'm okay with it, right? It's something I'll tolerate as long as the standee, each one has its own base. I am totally out if I have to take it off and put it on a different one to use it. That's really problematic for me, which is one of the reasons why I don't play the Endings games as much as I otherwise would. But the screen printed meeple says we tried, but we're also not expecting you to do the art for us. So that's why that's my preferred method.
Yeah, but sometimes if we talk about the miniatures themselves, on the other hand, sometimes the miniatures are, as you said, if they're unpainted and the whole game is extremely colorful, like in this case, the game is extremely colorful, it feels like some of the world is grayed out. Mm-hmm. And I don't know if I like that. There's also the game called Nemesis, where some of the miniatures, I don't have that version, but they had this kind of a sun drop on them. Yeah. I don't have the sun drop on the miniatures. And in this game, it kind of works because this is a dark environment and everything is kind of a shady and dark. And the miniatures here work, especially the sun drop version ones, but even the usual ones, if I will find it here, I don't know if there's only sun drop miniatures, but the usual ones are like the gray ones, like that. And there are a lot of colors in this game, but on the other hand, it doesn't bother me that much in this game. So it depends on whatever are the other components in this game.
Right.
Do they add to that grayed out miniature, or do they take it away from there? So this is another example of miniatures working somewhat, but still this kind of a sun drop on the miniatures helps.
It helps a lot, and it's one of those things that once you've gone there, you really can't go back. Like with Awakened Realms games, I'll always pay the extra $30 for the sun drop because it makes them that much better they feel finished. Even
Yeah.
they feel like, okay, here's something that will stand out, and you don't have to do any work.
Have you had, if you go back, have you had sometimes the experience of a game where you feel like they've put in some miniatures and extra like 3D pieces of whatever the components and resources and things, and everything else just looks cartoonish, and then you have those miniatures and things, and it detracts from the experience of the game. Have you had such experience?
The answer, I'm sure, is yes, but I cannot recall right now.
Because I'm not sure about myself, because I'm not the biggest miniature guy here.
Yeah.
But for example, let me think a little bit. Maybe like Vindication has the kind of a feel to that.
Okay, I could see that because it has those large statue things you can build that don't really have any effect on the game. They just kind of feel like they're there. And then you've got, yeah, I can see what you're saying there, because everything they just don't fit.
Yeah, there is also standees, but the standees are needed here because they go into between spaces, and I feel like it doesn't bother me.
That's your player character, and that one, those are okay. Those work for the game.
Yeah.
But then there's that Border Hulk mini, and then there's all those yeah, there you go, and then there's that huge dragon, and there's all those like sculpture things that you can build. I don't remember what they're called, but yeah, no, I can see what you're meaning.
Yeah, if you look at this whole board, it just feels like they are not necessary there at all. Mm-hmm. Everything else, like a little bit of that cardboard, and the cubes are here and things, and then eventually you get this miniature on top, and it just feels weird. Mm-hmm. Also, but what about Anachrony, by the way? The Anachrony has, if we go back to miniatures, and the art of Anachrony is great. How do you feel about, first of all, a game having great artwork but being overwhelmed by all those iconography and those spaces, because the artwork is basically hidden behind all of these symbols and spots and things,
Yeah. I don't notice the art in Anachrony. I've never been able, it's never drawn me in at all. I recognize that there is some, but I play the game for the game and don't really pay attention to it, probably because it is hidden. If we were to take another game where there's a lot of background artwork, one we talked about a little earlier today, which is Pillars of the Earth, that is a game where I do notice the artwork even though it is in the background. Right? Okay. Because that artist is well known for doing that, of sort of hiding little things to look at, and making sort of a picture first and then deciding where to put the various pieces of the game. This one feels like all of the icons and spaces were put there first, and then they said, let's put something behind it.
Yeah, gonna fill the space, so it doesn't look so boring. And especially when like those different buildings that you build, they have nothing on them, but which makes icons. Which makes them really clear, and that's where Anachrony is one of Anachrony is one of those examples where I want to talk about at what point you need to restrict or abandon the artwork for the sake of clarity. So, for example, in Anachrony, having artwork on the background, because the artwork is beautiful, to be honest, but having it totally on a background really helps elevate the symbology and the clarity of those different spots. This one works here, but is there any game where you feel the artwork really doesn't help the game?
Where it gets in the way?
It gets in the way.
I was thinking about this, and I can't remember the game. I had one out, and my friend came down, and he was just shocked by how full the board looked because of the artwork, but I can't quite remember it. Maybe if I look at my recent plays, I might be able to find it.
Something about the bulls or the.
Here's one. This is a game. The very base side of a game that I really like, and I love the artwork in it, of Root. Root is an example because that river, every single game, people try and move along it. People plan their turns as though you can move along the river. And I know, one faction you can. But that river gets it. Well, on the winter side, it's a little cleaner because there's not as much going on. But on the base side of the board, that river gets in the way, and the artwork kind of obscures which of the different clearings there are, because sometimes it matters what clearing, whether it's a fox or a rabbit or a mouse. And there are those those resin ones that I almost always play with because you can put it there and then it stands out. But the artwork on the board, while it looks fantastic, it can interfere with the gameplay, especially with that river.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. I see that. Right. I know this from Calico, the game about the bulls, which had like overwhelming. I don't remember the name of the game. Just the art on the board was just too much, too many colors, too red or whatever. It's just weird. But I just want to talk about another game called Scythe. Everybody knows Scythe. And in this case, the game evolved from the art, which is already great. Not the game, but the theme itself evolved from the art. I feel like the art is great, but don't you think in this game as well, the art on the background here sometimes is a little bit too much?
I have not found that to be a problem. I think this is a game, it is there, and it's something that I guess, maybe I've just played Scythe too many times, but I find, the spaces are so clearly delineated, and the one icon that matters is always in the same place and is very clear. So I have never really had a problem with the art getting in the way in this game.
Okay. But what do you feel about Scythe again? And it's another idea. What do you feel about the balance between miniatures and wooden components and everything else in this game? Because I feel like this game has a nice balance of that. The miniatures aren't too big. They're rather small, and that's probably what saves the game. If they would be even bigger, they would feel like a little bit overwhelming on the board. But in this case, I don't know, it just works.
Yeah, the exception, of course, being the airships. But I have found it's a nice delineation because the fact of whether something is a miniature or a wooden component has a gameplay function, right?
Yes.
You have the special abilities on the plastic pieces, and they can start a combat, and that's easy to remember.
Yeah, and you have wooden components; they cannot fight.
Right.
So yeah, that does help out in this case. So Scythe, I feel, is a balanced thing where we're like, Scythe is the one that it feels rather abstract as well, but due to this art and feel and all those different components, it adds to the gameplay, thus adds to the theme, and thus adds to the overall experience in this case. But I also wanted to talk about, can you come up with one game where you don't need art at all? What is the game that what is the game that you enjoy a lot, but the art is abysmal?
Well, there are lots of those. There's Concordia. I love Concordia. The art is not there. It's just function. There's some functional things. I like Deus, which is also the same thing. Anything by Stefan Feld.
But what would you feel about
abstract games?
Yeah, but what would you feel if they would do a Concordia revamp with like a great art and maybe great pieces and things? What do you feel?
I would not be excited about it. I think it would detract from sort of the simplicity of the game. Look, if it looked better, I wouldn't mind, but it's not about that. This is a game about playing your cards and moving around a map. It's not a game about looking at things or having things look good at all.
Yeah, yeah, I see that. For me, one of those games that doesn't really need the art, because the theme itself, and I mean, like it's so functional, it's so easy to play as well. But it's a stockpile, which
Sure.
if you look at the stockpile, it looks like it doesn't look exciting. Just look at that. It's not exciting,
That
but
board does
it
not
looks
look exciting
colorful
at all.
though. Yeah, it looks colorful though, but it's like rows of numbers and things and some cards, and I mean, there's not much art in it, but the components are still good. And I feel like if this would be done in a more, like, there would be more art in this game, it would get in the way
Yeah.
of this game. The clarity, the simplicity of the game, as well as you told about the Concordia.
Another game that's like that for me is War Chest. If we're going into the abstract, that is a game that thrives on being very simple, very clean, and anything. I mean, there's no art in it at all. It's an abstract game, and it's got nice components, but there's really nothing to look at. That's not the same game. That's chess. I said War Chest.
It says War Chest here.
Oh. Try it as 2 words.
Yeah, see? So there's another
There you
War
go.
Chest.
Oh, well,
Yeah.
That one didn't look amazing either. That just looked like chess. See, this game looks very abstract. You can just tell right away that that's what it is. And anything else in it, if even one bit of art were added, it would get in the way.
Okay, yeah, I can see that. What do you feel about, we're gonna just a few more things, just for a couple of minutes. What do you feel about Wingspan? I mean, the Wingspan has a different theme from usual one, and Wingspan has a really cool artwork. If you would strip it down, and let's say it will be fantasy theme with like your usual fantasy artwork, would it be neglected then?
I don't think it would be nearly as charming. I think there are a lot of games that do what Wingspan does, maybe even better, but don't look as good and therefore get neglected.
Yeah, so you feel like the art and the theme, an unusual theme, and the components of the game, they made the game what it is in this case.
I think they kind of all came together in just the right proportions. Look, there's not really a theme in Wingspan, right? There are birds, but you're not doing anything with them. It's very much a mechanical game, but the artwork kind of adds a little bit of theme, not too much, not so much that it gets in the way, but enough that it's interesting, and there's the right balance of, on the card, there's art in the middle, but the text is not too small, the icons are the right size and in the right position, there's great graphical design around there, and on the board, there's sort of a general bland artwork, and then the icons are able to stand out. It's a good balance of art with not a very strong theme and interesting game mechanisms.
Okay, yeah, I agree. I want to mention a few titles. First of all, one of the titles where I feel like I'm not sure, this is Homesteaders. I'm not sure about how like the art is not good. There's the older version basically looks the same as the new version, but I mean this is basically how they look in the newer version as well. Those building tiles, but each time I think about that, I want to have a cooler, better looking game. I feel like I don't know how they would do that, because it can totally, because it's so functional, it might take away from the functionality and be frustrating. And this is one of those games where I really want to get a great artwork for this game. I really want to do, because I like the game, but the art is not so good. When I show this game to other people, they're like, no, please, I want to play that. And that's what it's in the way, that's what makes this game not be so maybe popular. But still, on the other hand, I'm not sure if adding the art would benefit the game itself.
Well, I think it would be easier to get it played. Right.
True that.
The game does not look good.
But you need to be very specific about the art. You need to be very careful on where do you put the art in and so on. So, yeah.
So
yeah, one of those.
There's a game that I think about that where the artwork is almost a negative thing. I think the artwork is thematic, but in a way that would make people not even want to consider the game. Fortunately, it's a one-player game, and that's Mr. Cabbage Head's Garden.
Oh yeah, I saw that.
I mean, the art is strange, or even creepy or off-putting. It's basically vegetables with people's heads painted on them, and it's just, look, if you can get past it, it's an enjoyable solo game. But it is not an enjoyable game to look at, really, at any level. To the point where when I first saw it, I was like, I'm not sure that I want to spend any time with that game.
Oh, it reminds me of another game called Imaginarium.
Well,
with this weird art.
Yeah, that has weird art, very weird art.
But yeah, but like really abstractly weird. And there are some games like Abyss and, for example, this Tidal Blades as well, where I feel like the mechanics, as well as with Wingspan, they work the same way. The art and things are so balanced that they add to the theme and enjoyment of the game, and it feels like without that art, the mechanics would be lackluster. But I don't know why, but the feel, just it adds to the feel of the game more than mechanics themselves. But one last game I want to talk about is, for example, this is also my collection, where the art is just amazing, and there are literally a ton of different art pieces there. And this is Museum, and Museum is an it's an abstract game, and it's a set collection game, and I like set collection, but not in such a, it's not one of my favorite mechanics. It's not like I would love to play set collection games all the time. But in this one, the art, it's just so evocative. It's the art helps the game so much. And one of the things, like in Museum, also in Valley of the Kings, there are some of the facts or historical nuances about this or that artifact, and it's really cool. I like that. The historical facts or nuances in the game, for me at least, adds to the theme of an abstract game, and this is an abstract game.
Yeah.
But what helps this game to have kind of a smooth enjoyment is the art, and are those facts as well. So here you can find another component that can help out, like some historical fact about this or that thing. I like that. When I played the Valley of the Kings, when it wasn't my turn, I kind of figured out what I would do. Some simple cards in my hand, I would read the text on those cards and see, and this is used here, this is here. It's like, it's just cool, I know. It just gets you to the time to pass faster, and then, yeah. So, this is a free roam topic. We just talked about various games and how the art can ruin the game, kinda, or can help the game a lot, or is balanced, and plastic versus wooden components. But what's your overall opinion? How much are you searching for the art or cool looking components in the game, or how much are you searching for just a great gameplay?
Well, I mean, as you know my tastes, I tend to be split right down the middle, right? I can take a game that is ugly and love it if it is well designed. I can take a game that is beautiful and enjoy it even if it's not really very good. But I will say that I'm going to pay attention to a game that looks good and that has that thematic artwork long before I will start to look at a game that is uninteresting or uninspired.
So you're still choosing. So it's not like just somebody put a Lorenzo Magnifico in front of you and let's play that. You would and there's the ever
game.
Yeah, but I mean like if you've never played that and there's the like Everdell setup and there's the Lorenzo in Magnifico setup. You look at those two, just a glimpse of an eye. It was just like you know nothing about both of those games.
Oh well, yeah. I mean, obviously, I would go to something more like Everdell because it just looks better. If we're talking about, I guess that's more components that get in the way. That's a topic for another time in Everdell. But I definitely will be drawn to something that looks better before I'll be drawn to something that is not looking good, even if it's from a company that I know. I just, I tend to go follow my eyes first.
Yeah.
But I won't exclude something that's good, even if it looks bad.
Yeah. I, for myself, I'm not really in the middle. I'm more of a great art, cool theme component guy here. I mean, there are some games that don't have a great theme, or like let's say don't have a great artwork, but they have an interesting theme for me, like for example Black Angel and so on. It's not a beautiful game, but I like the premise, the theme, for example.
It's a good game, but it looks really bad.
Yeah. Or for example Homesteaders is the one that even the theme, nor the theme or the art really helps me here, but it's something exclusive in my wheelhouse. Usually I tend to go towards the more beautiful games, and even nowadays, let's say nowadays even more, having my policy of 50 games at max in my collection, because I want to play games again and again and again, and I want to play with them with different players and with new folks and introduce new folks to the hobby. I've seen cool artwork really helping out me in kind of expanding the hobby for other players.
Well, but my experience with you is that if you don't like the way a game looks, you won't even try it.
Yes, mostly. But so, it depends. For example, let's say when I looked at Underwater Cities, it's not a beautiful game by any mean. But for example, some neat ideas like having those cities which are like cones, whatever they are, the domes. The domes, and having those just simple pieces, some domes and some kind of a buildings around them. It creates the 3D environment in them. So even few simple extras in the game can help me out to want to play that game. Or if there is a great designer behind it that I love and so on, so it can also help out. Like Papa Regni, whatever the Praga Regni.
Praga Caput Regni?
Yeah. The new game from Underwater Cities designers. So yeah, overall, I still tend to enjoy games much more if they have a theme that I like and they have the art. As you can see, Abyss would never be in my top 10 or top 20 without the great art which evokes the theme. And also, I'm the one who is getting tired of a ton of miniatures. And I try to skip the deluxe versions usually. Sometimes the miniatures help. For example, the Tidal Blades, it was either the standees or the miniatures. Then I picked the miniatures.
Sure.
But yeah, I just feel like sometimes there's just too much plastic. It feels like these miniatures are out of this world, and they doesn't help me to enjoy the game more. They don't help me.
Hard to store. Another game that I think of kind of when I think about this is Catacombs, right? Because I have both versions of Catacombs. I have the original one that did not look good, and nobody wanted to play it.
I didn't want to touch that.
You would never have played that. even if I had paid you money to. And yet, and then the new version is exactly the same. All right, there's more stuff now. It's bigger, but in terms of gameplay, there's no real difference. And I kept my original Catacombs when I moved just for this reason, because it's sort of an interesting story of evolution. I also have the new one, and I don't play the old one anymore because it looks so bad. But this is a game that when it got a graphic overhaul, it also started to reach a lot more people.
Yes, and it reached me as well, and I like that. So that's where this one helped out me to acknowledge game and to buy it and to enjoy it. So, but it's a long topic, and we can talk about the art and theme and how it implements or how it helps out the hobby a ton. But we will end here. To each his own. Everybody likes different stuff in games, and some people don't care about the art or theme. Some people care about it a lot. Some people are in the middle, and there are a lot of shades of opinions, 50 at least. But yeah, thank you for watching, and give us give your opinion on this topic. What do you feel about the art, the theme, the components? How much do they modify your opinion on a certain game? Is there a game that you have played before, it was like a first edition of the game, and then it wasn't so evocative because of the art, and then you got the second edition, it was so much better, but it was still the same game? It's like, where did the enjoyment come from? From the art or whatever, So that's it for today.
All right.
We'll see you another time in another episode of Würfelcast. So long.
Bye-bye.
Bye.